Derek Langston had lived on his family's land his whole life, never once questioning the history buried beneath it. His grandfather had built the barn more than 40 years ago, and Derek grew up believing he knew every inch of the property. But one chilly evening, while repairing a damaged corner post, Derek noticed something strange beneath his boots. The floorboards that should have been solid and silent echoed hollow, like there was something beneath them. It sent a ripple of unease through him because barns built on packed earth weren't supposed to sound like that. He pressed his ear against the floor and heard it clearly, the distinct thud of emptiness below. Curiosity gnawed at him until he pried up the first plank, then another, revealing a dark rectangular opening that descended into a tunnel. Steps led down, worn smooth by years of use. His pulse quickened as he struck a match, the glow revealing footprints in the dust, fresh ones. That discovery made his blood run cold. For 35 years, he had been living on this land, thinking he was alone. Now he realized he had been sharing it with someone unknown, someone who had been moving quietly beneath his very feet. The air smelled of earth and damp wood as Derek crept into the tunnel, every step pulling him further from the world he thought he understood, and closer to a secret that had been waiting decades to be found. As Derek's match flickered along the walls, it revealed careful craftsmanship. Wooden beams reinforced the tunnel, the work of professionals, not amateurs. This wasn't a hole someone had dug in desperation. It was a hidden structure meant to last. And then he saw it, an underground room furnished like someone lived there. A leather chair faced the entrance as though watching for intruders. A table beside it held a damp tin cup and crumbs still fresh on a plate. A wool blanket lay folded neatly on a cot, and a stack of books rested against the wall. Derek's hand trembled as he picked one up, opening to the first page. His breath caught. It was signed in his grandfather's handwriting, property of Samuel Langston, 1851. But Samuel had been dead for 15 years, and Derek had gone through all of his grandfather's possessions. These books had never been in the house. Beneath the table sat a locked metal box. Inside were deeds to properties Derek had never heard of, letters from strangers, and a photograph of his grandfather standing beside two unfamiliar men. On the back, in Samuel's writing, were the chilling words, "The agreement holds. The land stays divided. No one speaks of what happened here." Derek's match burned down to his fingers, but the cold dread had already settled in his chest. Something about his family's history wasn't what it seemed. And then the sound of footsteps creaked above his head. Someone was in the barn. Frozen in the darkness, Derek's ears strained as deliberate footsteps moved across the floorboards above him. He hadn't invited anyone. He lived alone, miles from the nearest neighbor. His heart hammered as the steps stopped directly above the hidden entrance. Then a woman's calm voice cut through the silence. "You can come up now, Derek. I know you're down there." His blood ran colder than ever. No one should have known his name. No one should have known this tunnel even existed. Forcing steadiness into his voice, he called back, "I'm not moving until you explain this." Her reply was even more unsettling. "That's exactly why I'm here. My name is Olivia Harrow. I've been waiting for you to find that tunnel for 3 months. Reluctantly, Derek climbed the creaking steps back into the barn, where a dark-haired woman stood with intelligent eyes and a leather satchel. She knew his family history, knew he had never set foot in the tunnel before that day. And most importantly, she carried documents that revealed an agreement from 1852, signed not only by his grandfather, Samuel Langston, but also by Thomas Harrow, her ancestor, and William Cross. According to the contract, the land Derek thought was his alone actually belonged to 3 families, and the time had come to divide it. But before he could process her claim, the sound of approaching horses echoed across the valley. The rumble of hooves grew louder until voices barked commands outside. Olivia's eyes flashed with urgency. "That's the third family," she whispered. Derek grabbed the box of documents as heavy boots stomped into the barn. From another hidden entrance in the tunnel, 3 men appeared, led by Marcus Cross, a tall man with graying hair who resembled the stranger in his grandfather's photograph. His voice carried authority as he introduced himself. "You must be Samuel Langston's grandson. You look just like him." Marcus explained that for decades his family had honored the contract, keeping their claim hidden, maintaining the tunnels, and protecting what lay sealed deeper underground. Derek's stomach tightened as Marcus revealed the truth. Truth, their grandfathers had discovered a silver vein beneath this land and built the tunnels to secretly mine it. For 50 years, they had extracted and stored unimaginable wealth away from government eyes. The silver was to be divided when the contract expired. But when Marcus' sons pried open the hidden chamber, horror swept over them. The shelves and containers were empty. Someone had beaten them to it. Fresh tool marks and mining dust proved the theft was recent. Suspicion filled the tunnel, eyes darting between Derek, Olivia, and Marcus. Who had stolen the treasure? And why were they all lured here at the same time? Before accusations tore the fragile alliance apart, a slow clap echoed through the tunnel. A woman stepped into the lantern light, older, with silver hair and a cold fire in her eyes. She introduced herself as Elena Vasquez, granddaughter of Roberto Vasquez, the man who had originally discovered the silver in 1851. Her words dropped like stones in the silence. "Your grandfathers didn't discover this silver. Mine did, and they murdered him to take it." She held up a worn leather journal filled with her grandfather's entries, including his final warning the night before he vanished. He feared his supposed partners, Samuel Langston, Thomas Harrow, and William Cross, were plotting betrayal. Elena claimed she had found her grandfather's remains buried in the sealed chambers 3 months earlier, a bullet hole in his skull. The chilling realization sank in. Derek's beloved grandfather, along with the others, had built their empire on robbery and murder. Elena admitted she had already extracted the remaining silver, funneling it into schools and hospitals where her family's name had been erased from history. And with icy certainty, she declared that the land itself belonged not to the Langstons, Harrows, or Crosses, but to Roberto's bloodline. The revelation shattered everything Derek thought he knew. The land he cherished was no proud inheritance. It was a crime scene, a graveyard hiding beneath barns and fields. Marcus Cross, shaken pale, said nothing, his sons staring at the ground. Olivia trembled as she knelt beside the skeletal remains Elena revealed, whispering, "We thought they were pioneers. They were killers." Derek's mind swirled with disbelief, anger, and shame. His grandfather, the man who raised him, had murdered for wealth. And now Derek stood in the ruins of that legacy, faced with a choice. Elena demanded justice, not through violence but through truth. She wanted the land returned, the family stripped of their claims, and the memory of her grandfather honored. For the first time in his life, Derek saw his property for what it really was, a tomb, not a home. He realized he couldn't work the soil or repair the barn without feeling the weight of the blood spilled to create them. He couldn't carry on the lie. His voice cracked, but he spoke firmly. "This land doesn't belong to me. It never did. It belongs to Roberto Vasquez's descendants. I'll sign it over." The following days were filled with grim paperwork. In the county seat, Derek signed away the only life he had ever known, his hand steady even as he cut ties with generations of history. Marcus Cross and his sons followed, unwilling to profit from murder once the truth was undeniable. Olivia, after hesitation, also walked away. Elena Vasquez took ownership, promising to give Roberto a proper burial and ensure the land would finally reflect justice. As Derek left the office, a strange lightness filled him. For 35 years he had carried the invisible weight of a false legacy, the crushing burden of guilt passed down unknowingly. Now, freed from it, he had a chance to build something new. When Olivia asked where he would go, Derek said simply, "West, somewhere I can build something honest from the ground up. For the first time, I'll know that what I own, I've earned." Marcus, standing nearby, nodded with the same quiet relief. They had all lost wealth, land, and status, but in return they had gained something far more valuable: truth. Derek rode away from the town that had always known him as Samuel Langston's grandson. Now he was just Derek, a man seeking honest work, determined to forge a future not tainted by betrayal or greed. The land he left behind would no longer echo with secrets or conceal hidden graves. For the first time in decades, the truth was no longer buried underground. And though it was terrifying to leave everything behind, it was also exhilarating because Derek carried something his grandfather never had: freedom born from integrity. His story reminds us that no matter how heavy the weight of a false inheritance, there is always a choice: to live in the shadow of lies or step into the light of truth. Derek chose truth, and that made him richer than any vein of silver ever could. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss another powerful tale.